Hey there, I'm your host, Tisha Michelle, and welcome to #Certified, where you will leave enlightened, empowered, and inspired to live a life of authenticity. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to #Certified. I am your host, Tisha Michelle. I'm super excited today to bring you a conversation with Billy McMullen. So, who is Billy McMullen? Well, Billy played 7 years in the NFL and he was drafted third round by the Philadelphia Eagles after having a stellar career at the University of Virginia. Billy was the all-time leading receiver at UVA and the second all-time leading receiver in the ACC history at the end of his college career. Billy is now a speaker and trainer and has dedicated his life to spreading the message of being made free to be what you want to be, not only in your personal, but in your professional life. And I have the honor and pleasure of calling Billy one of my close friends. So in this episode, he shares a little bit about his story from high school, college, to the NFL, to then battling an identity crisis that so many of us have gone through or still may be, struggling in that area, to now teaching about the power within that we all possess. So I've had many conversations with Billy, and we get deep conversations. And he has so much insight and experience and just wisdom that not only to bring to the #Certified tribe, but also to bring to the world. So I'm definitely going to have him on some more episodes so you guys can also get a taste of the information that I've gotten from him. So I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. Now let's get started. Hey, first, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and my #Certified tribe. I know your time is important and I really do appreciate it.
I
So
appreciate
thank
you
you.
having me on. Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know your story. I know who you are. But if you don't mind taking a little bit of time to let my listeners know who you are and how you got to where you are right now to actually even being on this call.
Oh yeah. First and foremost, I appreciate you having me on, and I guess just a little quick snapshot of myself and where it is I am in my life and where I'm coming from. Born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. Um, uh, One of four kids, and basically for me, I was a quiet kid, but I fell in love with sports early. I fell in love with sports. It's like my getaway, and football was a sport of choice, and I think it's just because of the action and the discipline of it. But I really didn't understand it as a young man, but now that I do, but yeah, it was pretty cool because I found out career that it was something I did well, and I had a coach. Actually, I just reached out to him here for Father's Day and thanked him for all he did for me. He saw something special in me, and he sort of taught me how to field and got me up to speed because I started playing late, basically knowing exactly what to do. But blew up, and a lot of schools came after me in high school, and I wasn't a bad really have a focus, so I had to go to a prep school, and then from that prep school, University of Virginia came calling, which was awesome because they came calling like the last week of recruiting, and from there I went to University of Virginia with a sort of chip on my shoulder, and I ended up leaving University of Virginia as the all-time leading receiver there that ever stepped foot on that campus, and which is pretty cool. Had some awesome teammates, some great quarterbacks that I played with. But not only that, I left. I left the mark in the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is the ACC. When I left, I was the second leading all-time receiver, which was pretty cool. And this is part of my story actually. When we get a little more heavy into it, because I would normally tell people what I did. I would just sort of let a hype somebody who knew about me to tell people who I am and what I did. It was just part of my MO. But after University of Virginia, I had a chance to get drafted into the NFL, which was a lifelong dream. And I got drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles third round. Matter of fact, I got drafted right after one of my buddies that I played with at University of Virginia, whose name is Angelo Crowell, doing really well for himself right now. And I played with the Philly Eagles and about 3.5 years. And I got traded to Minnesota Vikings, and I bounced around quite a few, Seattle Seahawks, and I actually ended with the Seattle Seahawks. Basically, I went to Detroit for a couple weeks, but long story short, I had about 7 years, which is way past the average in the NFL, way past the average. So I had a pretty decent career, and once I got out, I had like a
Well,
lot. Go ahead.
well, before we actually go there, just because I do know the story, I want to take it back a little bit. So let's go back to high school real quick.
Let's go back to
So
high school. Okay.
yeah, so you said you were in high school and you got recruited, pretty late, and you had a chip on your shoulder. So being a mom of athletes as well, I know the pressures, that the world and everyone can put on you as far as getting recruiting and stuff. So can we go a little bit and just tell a little bit more of that story of what that actually looked like for you, coming late into the game and not actually having any offers? If you can tell a little bit more about that, like what was that process like?
Yeah. So the recruiting game was a lot different back then. It was more hands on than it is now, because there was no social media, and it was all basically who knows who. It was coaching network, and for me, man, I was always a late bloomer. I bloom late. I don't like saying this, but I bloom late in a lot of things I do. But I was a late bloomer, so I didn't really start hitting my stride in terms of football, like really getting it until my 11th grade year. And by that time, I didn't really understand the recruiting process that I had to go out and contact schools and all that stuff. I didn't understand that. So fast forward to my senior year, I got hurt and my grades weren't that good. And the only recruitment that I really had was a coach at a local school called Huguenot High School. I went to Henrico High School, but a coach named McPhee was sending coaches over to me to say, "Hey, it's a good kid, a good player over at Henrico," but I had no grades, and so with that said, I'm hurt, and my senior year was not as good as my junior year, and it was pressure on me, but it wasn't back then. It really wasn't any outside pressure because nobody had did anything big for my school at that time. It was a couple guys that went on to play in, some one double A teams or one A teams, but it was no big pressure, outside pressure. I put all the pressure on myself because I knew what type of talent I had and I knew I wanted to go to the next level. So with that said, it was funny though because that was like my awakening. I can say one of my first awakenings that something's different. And I'm glad you asked that question because the all the schools had dropped off of me because of grades and then my injury. But I had one more school, one more big time school because I wanted to play big time ball. It was Iowa University, and I was supposed to go on a recruiting visit that Friday night after a basketball game, and they called my dad and and they told him, say, "No, we can't have him because his grades are too low. His SAT score is too low." So you're talking about a young kid, man, that I walk home and my dad's a big, strong dude. You never see him cry, but I walked in the door and he told me the story. He was at the top of the steps and he was crying, man. And I was like, "Yo, my dad's crying." But then when he told me, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be a loser out here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm working in a burger joint, and nothing against people who work in a burger joints, but I had a bigger aspirations." But I never forget the day I sat down in the kitchen, and I remember it like yesterday, like it just happened. The kitchen was dirty because I think it was my day to clean the dishes, and I do it. But but I sat down and I was just sitting like I was actually saying to myself, like, "Yo, I'm gonna be a loser out here." But everything in me, it was so weird because this is the first time I ever felt this feeling. It was like it rose up from inside of me, and it was like, keep doing what you're doing. And at that time, I had buckled down in school. I was really focused on everything I had to do to get to the next level, and I felt it. Before that time, in that kitchen, when I was sitting there in that kitchen, I was crying. But the minute I felt that feeling, that voice, you can call it God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, the tears dried up, and I instantly knew I was good to go. And so I went upstairs. My mom came home and she asked me what happened, and she's like, "You good?" And my dad was distraught, but I was good. I was literally good. So the pressure was basically that I put on myself, but that inside voice calmed everything down, and the path was sort of set out from that point, and it was amazing. It was like really my first awakening, man. I was like really on point with that. So
Like you say, like that was the first awakening. And to you back then, being younger and not, as far in your, consciously, let me say that, consciously, aware of the spiritual journey that you were on, what would you say, what did you think that was? Now you can say, oh, that was my awakening and that was his voice inside of me. Did you feel like it was more because I'm going to be good because I have to prove something so my dad will be okay? Or it's like, oh, I have to prove something like for myself? Like, where do you think, if you can think back to then in that moment, like,
in
what
that
was that?
in that moment, that's actually a really good question. In that moment, it was pure peace, and that's the best way I can say it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna show these coaches what's up. That came later on. Yeah, it was like, oh, I'm gonna do this for my dad. That came later on. Or I'm gonna show these guys out here that doubted me in the neighborhood that they pick me last all the time. None of that was part of that deal. It was like a piece like I never understood before. It was like, wow, I am, because I heard it, the voice, so vividly. And back then I was a very heavy, I guess, I guess you could say religion, Pentecostal. I can honestly say I'm no longer. I'm just a spiritual guy. I like to say but I equated that to the Holy Spirit and the voice of God, which really it still is that the Spirit, God, everything is everything, universe. So it was nothing about proving anything wrong or anybody wrong. It was all about that piece of that moment, and I knew once I heard it and I felt it, it literally ran through my body, all from my stomach all the way up to my head down to my feet, and I was like, wow, what was that? And I acknowledged it, and then I literally got up, wiped my tears, and I went upstairs and I had a big science project due. I went right to work. It was like nothing ever happened, and I can say that was I was lost.
Okay. All right. So, your high school, your dream is, to continue playing like ball. It looks like it's cold underneath you, because your grades aren't that good. Um, but then you get that chance, you get that opportunity. And then we fast forward a little bit, you're in the NFL. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's go to the NFL. Share with the listeners that experience, because there's a lot of, people who have this big goal, or something that they want to do, whether it's for themselves, whether it's for other people, and then they get that opportunity and they're there, and then what happens?
Well, so to share that experience, I had to go back to the end of my high school career. It was like basically I had a I used to act out these scenes that I was playing in the NFL, and I would literally get so far in these scenes that I was playing that you would thought I was really in a game. And this is a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid doing this. In my mind, I just thought I was there. So I go to UVA, I ball out, I do my thing, and then get to the NFL. And when I got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the third round, the day I hit Philadelphia and went in and signed the paperwork, which was at training camp 2003, I literally sat and opened my mouth and I said, "How the hell did I get here?" I had no clue. Like you could say, yeah, I knew hard work and I knew I made a bunch of plays and caught a lot of passes and shook a lot of hands and made good impressions on people. But in myself, I was like, yo, how the hell I got here? How did I get here? And so that experience for me was it was a crazy experience for me because that happened. I didn't know how I got there, and then when I got there, I never restructured myself to create bigger goals. I was almost like, let me see what happens here. When I went to UVA, it was like, I'm gonna show everybody what's up because you picked me too. You should have been recruiting me earlier. But the experience in the NFL was a basically whatever you want to make it, it could be. And I sort of floated my first 2 years trying to figure out manhood, trying to figure out money, trying to figure out people, trying to figure out business, and just trying to figure out life, man. In the first 2.5 years, I was floating. So, but as I regained, or not regained, like restructured myself or recreated myself, and got back to being grounded in that peace within myself, my game and my actions and my everything started to pick up. So, but it is a big goal, but I never thought about it like that. I really literally always knew I was gonna make it. Like I knew it. Like I had somebody in school ask me one time, we were eating lunch together, and she said, "So what are you doing after school?" I was like, "I'm going to the NFL. What are you talking about?" And she said, "Hi." I was like, "What, you don't know?" And I wasn't like bragging or anything, but I was like, "Seriously, like I'm going. Like you don't know what you're doing?" And she's like, "No." I like, "Sorry for you. I know I'm going." But yeah, that's sort of the experience, man. It was like big. It's growing up, man. It was a big. Just didn't know. Um, I was in a big game and big business, and I didn't know how to handle myself the first couple of years. So, like I said, I coasted for a little bit until I grabbed a hold of something.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the I think you said you was eating lunch with a friend, and she asked you what was you gonna do after school, and you said, I'm going to the NFL, and you were very confident and sure it was just like as a matter of fact. Like, how come you don't know already, right? So, it's so many people, including myself. I've had times, where something that I've wanted, that's there, but you're afraid. There's that fear. One fear of what is other people going to think, or do other people think that you're good enough, or it can happen. But being at a younger age and just letting that roll off of your tongue, like I'm going to the NFL, as if everyone goes to the NFL. I don't actually know the numbers. I don't remember them. But when I heard the numbers of how many people actually make it to the NFL, it's just like, wow, dang. It's not a lot that makes it to the NFL. So for you to be so confident and to just roll it off of your tongue like I'm going to the NFL, like just know, like, where would you say that came from, and also that people can pull that from, because there's a lot of people who have big goals and big dreams that people I've met along this journey, people that are listening, or to this podcast, that have this dream and this desire, this goal, to do something big in life. Might not be as big as, the NFL, or maybe it's even bigger, but they're afraid. But for you to be young and just to be so confident in that, where do you think that comes from? Or I guess I can say, like, you know, how can you to encourage people to
Um,
go big or
I,
go home?
Go big or go home. So, one of the biggest things that I learned, and when I quantify and look at my life and the times that I was very successful and the times that I was not as successful and very stressed out, is when I'm weighing in other people's opinions and giving consideration to too many things. When What I've learned is when you set a goal, or when you set a goal in your heart, and that it gives you excitement, and it's like it's nothing else that makes your hair pop up on your skin like that. Like that's your goal. Go get it, right? What we do is, especially when we get older, we start considering everything. And by the time you get to the third consideration or fourth consideration, that excitement's left because you trying to bring all that old stuff with you. But as a young man, I'm like, oh, this is just what I want. Is that singular focus. This is what I want. This is what I'm gonna get. And it's nothing. I never looked at it as like it's nothing that's gonna stop me. I literally fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the craft. I fell in love with, as hard as it was, waking up every day in the morning, working out, getting bigger, faster, stronger, like we used to say. Sitting in the meeting, as boring as that was, I fell in love with practice. I fell in love with the whole process. And so I never gave consideration to anything else. So when she says, "Hey, where you going?" I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Where I'm going? You don't know. So for those who are looking to go big or go home, stop considering other people's opinion. Matter of fact, stop considering your opinion. Just go for that excitement. That Don't be afraid to go after that thing that excites you, man, because it's gonna bring the proper energy. It will bring the wealth. If you don't know it, like whatever it is, it will bring you enough wealth that it would take care of you in the long run. It's gonna bring you relationships. strong relationships. Why? Because as you go along on your road, those who are they're gonna aid you to get to where you need to be, and definitely don't worry about the haters, because the haters are just there to tell you that you're doing the right thing. Like, I learned that whenever you're going through the process, that everybody has to play a role to you, and all those roles is like a movie. All those roles are saying, "Hey, you're the leading character. I'm the hater over here," and the other person is the congratulator. Their support, but both are telling you the same thing, that you in NFL, bro. So I had the haters and then I had the supporters. And they were both telling me, man, he think he good. Thank you. That means you just told me I'm in NFL. So go big is literally considering, don't consider other people's opinions. Don't consider your old ways. Don't consider what you have right now. You just get excited about that moment and you attack it full force, man.
No, I absolutely, absolutely agree, and I love how you talk about like in the process. That's one of like the hardest things, just from different conversations I've had with people. It's honestly is trusting the process, But I like to go a little bit further. I say trust the process and embrace the journey, and a lot of people really don't want to talk about the process. The process, to this big goal, like, or whatever. And sometimes it comes off as if, this process is always easy, and it's not. But if you trust it and embrace it, it's kind of like that magic happens.
Most definitely. Most
I'm
definitely.
glad you brought up the really just trusting that process and what it is, and the haters, right? you
Oh, the
know
haters, baby. Yeah.
um and it's interesting because we hear a lot of people just say like, oh, they're just haters, this and that. And I always just say we're all just mirrors. you know
Hmm.
so like people's um like for percent of you is just a reflection of them. So when people are judging you, they're really just judging themselves, and they're seeing something in you that they want, or that that they're lacking, or whatever that is. So it's very, very, very important to not focus on people and what their opinions are.
You know what I?
um
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what I thought? I've noticed the other. Well, I was talking, having a conversation. It's like about jealousy and people that are jealous about what it is that you're doing. It gets back to what you just said. That mirror, like your light is shining, so it's they have an opportunity to say, I'm either gonna support or I'm gonna focus on my lack. And those who are jealous, they focus on their lack and they quickly put it on you, like, oh, they think they this. Why? Because I'm not that. Got everybody gathered around them. They ball and they're doing their thing. But I'm not that because I have this in my corner. I'm not good enough. I don't look as good. I'm not as fast. I'm not as smart. I don't talk as well. And then it's like, oh, look at them. They think they got it. But what I learned too, let them people be where they are. Let the great people be where they are. Let the bad people, let the jealous people, let the hateful people. Why? Because we all are playing a role to others. We all playing a role to ourselves, and we're all going through a process. So that gets back to this center focus that we all come from this same source. So we are the same source. So let them people be who they are. I can't get mad at you because you're jealous of me. I can't get mad at you because you're supporting me. You know what I mean? Because you in the proper place you need to be in. So I'm not gonna judge you. You just are what you are. I'm not gonna be around you, but I ain't gonna judge you either.
Hmm.
That's just where you are.
Oh no, I completely agree. I know, just growing up, just really just throughout like adult life, I would just hear, whether I read it or heard somebody say like, "Oh, don't take it personal." And I said, "What do you mean, don't take it personal?" Like, they're attacking me, they're saying it to me. So of course it's very personal. But it wasn't until probably this, this last like 14, 15 months that I really started to understand what "don't take it personal" means. That, the opinions and stuff that people, or when they're judging you, it absolutely has nothing to do with you, and it's all about them. And I don't think that that really hit me until I started getting annoyed by someone. And
Hmm.
and I would then question myself and say, why am I so annoyed? Why am I allowing this person to annoy me so bad, or to
Hmm.
make me feel like this? And then when I started really questioning it, because that's one of the hard things to do. It's easy to check someone else, but then when you got to check yourself, whew,
Oh yeah.
That's something we try to avoid. But, at that time, I'm checking myself and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why am I all, bothered by this? And then I realized that it had nothing to do with the person. It was the mirror effect. And I was like, oh, wow, this is about me. This is about me
Mm-hmm.
feeling a particular way about something. And it had nothing to do with the person. That person, you said that light was just shining that light, and there was just that reflection. And I said, holy crap, it's me. So and I'm like, well, I'll be damned.
Right.
So then it really started to make sense when people, throughout these years, and people were like, oh, don't take it personal, don't take it. I used to just think that was just full of crap. It's very much personal, you're attacking me, but no, it was absolutely all about them. And I did not understand that until I started to check myself. And that's why I say, like, oh, okay, so if I'm judging, Billy over there, it's like, oh, my perspective of you is just a reflection of myself. Like, oh, okay. So if I'm jealous, because you use like being jealous. So if I'm jealous of you, okay, why am I jealous of you? Has nothing
Mm-hmm.
to do with you. It's all about me, because now this light that's shining is just showing that there's that you're shining that light in that part of me that I would like to be, or showing me, where I wanted to be, or where I wanted to go in life, and I'm not there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's hard. I'm just gonna keep it real. It's hard, and
Yep.
this is where people, you'll start saying all this stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I got all these haters, and they got this and this that, and it's like, it's not that people are necessarily hating on you. They're really hating on themselves, because
Yeah.
you're just showing them, what they don't have or they're missing.
Yeah. People. The thing is, self-evaluation. So I'm a speaker and a trainer, and I always talk about self-evaluation. Evaluate yourself before others do, and that's a nice and pretty way to say it. Hey, evaluate yourself. It makes people feel warm and cuddly inside. Like, yeah, I have really evaluated myself today when I came home from work, and I wanted to curse that person out, but I didn't do it. Nah, that's cool, but I'm talking about really digging, dig deep. Like, what's up with this feeling I'm feeling, man? Every time I'm around this person, what's up with this? You know, why when I get back in this old place that I used to live, or this old uh, whatever, this old atmosphere, I feel this type of way. Or like you said, when this person talks to me, why am I so irritated? Why? Once you start really going back, and I shot a video on Instagram the other day about peeling the onion. Once you really start attacking that onion, you see it don't have nothing to do with nobody else, man. It's all feelings and images, man. We operate off feelings and images, and they cyclical. They work together. Either you're gonna get an image first and then a feeling, or a feeling and an image, and that's gonna produce your reality. That's gonna produce how you operate in this world, how you operate with people. So going back and really checking your feelings, like check yourself, like what's up with this? Why do I go out here and I give half-ass effort in this situation? And why in this situation I go hard? Because it's something about this half-ass situation that you don't really want to dig into, because you're gonna touch a nerve in yourself, not in the other person. It's a nerve you got to touch in yourself. So those who are continually growing in the positive, I'm gonna say positive direction, in the direction they really want to go in, those are people that are not afraid to really check themselves and say, yo, I'm afraid of that. Like, especially the grown man, you don't want to say you're afraid of nothing, but I'm afraid of that. I don't want to do that. But yeah, that self-evaluation, peeling that onion is real, man. And you'll see that it's not that person in front of you or beside you, it's you, man.
Absolutely. It always goes back to us. And I think that's like the number one, message really to get through to people, that it's you. The end is everything is us. So yeah, I have to check myself. I don't evaluate myself, because like you said, evaluate is very warm and it's very soft, and it's like, you know what, I'll start justifying and making excuses for things. So no, I have to check myself, and I
Hmm.
have to see, why am I like this? And it goes for the opposite effect as well too. When you have those people where you're just like, I just always want to be around them. Like, I don't, or even if it's like social media, like, I read and I follow everything that this person says, because it just makes you feel good, where they're also highlighting those positive things in yourself.
Hmm.
And this is why. So that mirror, works both ways. And um so this is the people that you're welcoming into your life, whether it's like physically or whether it's just online and stuff, like those things that just make you just smile, and you're just like, oh my god, I gotta watch. You'll start binging all the YouTube videos, or you binge all the podcasts and stuff, because it's just everything that they say and it's how they make you feel. Well, yeah, they're also highlighting and shining that light on the great things within yourself. And
Hmm.
so that's another way to check yourself as well. So it definitely goes both ways. Okay, so we're in high school, we're in NFL, so I wanted to come back to that. So you said like those first, so you said the first, our conversations will just go in all types of, directions and all. But I know you said like those first 2.5 years, you called it, you were floating. And you said, manhood and just trying to figure out things. And, just, I guess, is it safe to say you were just kind of like going with the flow or going against the flow?
No, I was going with the flow. I was
Mm-hmm.
like trying to figure it out and trying to see how things work. I didn't come in with the mentality like I'm taking this. It's me. I was like literally, like, hey, let me see how this work. Let me see how all this NFL stuff work. And that was I can say that was a wrong mentality, but I had to go through it that way. So because truthfully speaking of that onion, I hadn't touched a bunch of onions in my life that drew me to football. You know what I mean? So it was some things that in my life that I had to go back and touch um, that was, I guess, prevailing in my adulthood and my manhood, that the foundation was shaky. So anything that I did was always shaky, and I guess one of the escapes was just football. So that's why I preach like, going back and for whatever situation, adulthood, being a child or whatever, going back and facing that situation. What I mean by facing it is because, or what I mean by facing is not dwelling on it, but acknowledge whatever it was, and don't try to uproot it. You just acknowledge it, because we have this thing in us where we won't acknowledge something, and it's constantly feeding us in our subconscious mind. It's constantly giving us this life that we don't want. It's constantly feeding us these images and these thoughts, and is redirecting our lives from perfection and what we really want. And so that's what I was going through. My first 2 years of like, bang, all right, I'm here, and I'm like, oh shoot, I noticed that I was playing for other people. I was playing for my coach. And so in my high school years, I had a great coach that's on my side. In my time at UVA, I had coaches that were on my side. They was pushing for me, and it started out like that at Philly. But I quickly noticed that my margin for error was it was short, and I lost confidence because, like, yo, I don't have a coach to play for. I didn't
Mm.
understand like the play. Hey, look, man, this is your stuff. He just coaches. So I was trying to do everything perfect. I mean, under a enormous amount of stress, because I had two things on my mind. I like, yo, I gotta show the coach. I wasn't trying to show the coach what's up, but I was trying to show him that I'm proving myself. There's a difference to saying like, I'm gonna show you what's up, and trying to prove myself every day. I'm trying to prove you, like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? And then on top of that, I'm like, once I signed that check, I was sort of playing for the money, and I never played for the money, never, never ever, and that threw me for a loop. That's why it took me like 2 years to get it together. But all that was based on a shaky foundation, and like I said, it took me 2.5 years to grab a hold of that and actually like just come back to say, you know what, man, I'm doing me, man. And when I got my mind around that, I could care less who was celebrating me or who was hating. I can care less if the coach is on my side or against me. And I had some really good coaches. It wasn't like they were out to get me, but they were. I wasn't their guy. Like, I came from the position of, hey, that's my guy. He gonna get it done. Um, so I had to get it in my mind, like, hey, I'm gonna go for me. Let's go. And not saying I'm not gonna play for the team, but I'm gonna do my thing. And so that was the first 2 years, and and then I ended my career on a higher note than I started. Um, and so, like I said, NFL was over in 7 years, and then bang, you get out the league like a lot of us do, and we have this identity crisis. Like, I've been playing ball since sixth grade. Like, this is my identity. what do I do now? Like what do I turn? Who do I talk to? Like, what do I do, man? Who am I? Like I'm pretty sure if I poll a lot of guys I played with, and like 90% have been through that crisis, or anybody who has had a craft that they worked on from a young age and they can't do it anymore. But if you look at anything, if I played the violin when I was 6, I'm still playing the violin when I'm 70, right? If I learned how to build furniture when I was 6, I still learn how to build. I know how to do furniture. That's not going away. But football, actually playing, is over. Is a young man's sport. 30. I was
Mm-hmm.
30 years old, so that identity crisis, man, and that led to led to another, if not the biggest awakening that I've ever had in my life. And it was like, okay, basically, who am I? And I discovered, this is cool because I discovered that it was nothing. Uh, it had nothing to do with football. It had nothing to do with what people said I was. It had nothing to do with any of that. I learned that everything that I am is I am. Whatever I created myself or whatever I create for myself, I am that. And that's where the concept of that I teach people now, made free, came from. It's called made free, and basically you're made free to be whatever it is you say you want to be, or you're made free to be the thing that you're calling yourself now. But I was so basically stuck on stupid, that I'm a football player. How does a football player interject itself into this, what we call real life now? And I couldn't get my mind wrapped around like not being a player anymore. I mean, every August I'm ready to play. Every September I'm ready to play, and it took a while for that to get out of my system because I recreated myself, and I recreated in my mind and my images and my thoughts and my feelings to say, man, you know what? That power that's in me, that power that wakes me up, that power that raises the sun, that power that rotates the earth, that keeps my heart beating, that blows a thing we call wind that we can't see. I have that same power in me, and I can recreate from and I was very depressed, from this depressed state to a place of freedom that said, man, it doesn't matter what's going on. At the drop of a dime, if I can create a new emotion in myself, and if I can create a new image in myself, and it becomes like a frenzy. Like I keep it in my mind, and I build it up so much that now that old person that was depressed and hurting and couldn't figure out life and lost identity, I can create this new person that's strong and ready to rock and want to attack the world in a different way. And we all have that power. So that was my great awakening. Like, yo, I come from the major source, the only source, and that source is a creator, and so am I.
Absolutely. I want to go back, like, when you're saying like that other, big awakening, and it was this identity crisis. It's, I personally believe there's so many, of us who are struggling with that. Um, it was January of 2018 when I had a conversation with one of my gurus, Jessica, and she asked me this question, and she said, "I'm gonna ask you this question." She put a lot of pressure from the beginning, and she was like, "So, your answer just, determines a lot, and once you can figure this, the answer to this question out, like your whole life will change." So I'm already under pressure, right? And I'm in my mind, in my mind, I'm making up a story of what question she's about to ask me, right? And she was like, you know, "What defines you?" And she's like, "What defines you?" And I was like, I really understand the question. You know what I mean? I was like, what if, and you're trying to like saying it, repeat it a couple times so something can pop into your head. And then she was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, bet I got this. I was like, oh, I was like, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur. I just knew it, man. She shut that shit down real quick, and she said, no, 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 no. That's what you do. And she said, and I guess got quiet. And at this point, I'm, kind of, feeling a little low because I just knew that I was acing this question that she said was changing my life, right? Oh, I got this, listing all these things. I had this nice list. And she said, "Nothing defines you." And I said, "What?" And I just got quiet again. And she was like, "Nothing defines you." She said, "So if you are no longer, because I had at the time I owned a home care agency. She's like, so once you sell this home care agency, does that mean you're like a nobody? Like, no. And then
Hmm.
she's like, she started going through my list and she started taking those things away. And she was like, so does that mean that you're like nothing? And I was like no. So then it started to like wrap around and I understood what she was saying. That, when she asked me who I was, I couldn't answer it. And I couldn't answer it because I didn't know. I
Hmm.
listed all the things that I did and I allowed all those titles, entrepreneur, mom, like a friend, all that to define who I was. And really, when you stripped all that away, I had no freaking clue who I am. So there's
Hmm.
a lot of people who go through that identity. So just me personally knowing you and your story, like it's safe to say that you allowed football to define you.
Most definitely. Hmm.
So when you came out of that, you're like, wait a minute, what's up? What do I do? Wait a minute, I don't have football no more. Like, okay, this is crazy. So it's like, who am I? And that is a huge thing to and just like so for the listeners, like if you're going through, this identity crisis, I personally feel like you first start by, recognizing that these different titles and stuff you have, that's just what you do. That's not who you really are. Like if you start to strip those things like away, that's where you're gonna self-evaluate, or check yourself and and really get to like the core like of of who you are. So NFL, you're out the NFL, now you're going through this identity crisis and then boom, you're realizing like, yo, I know who I am.
Hmm.
And it's not the football. And you come to this whole thing and you're like, we're made free. Tell share what that actually is and how you're incorporating that into uh not only your personal life, but how you are helping so many other people.
Yeah, so the made free is just something that was given to me like based on my steps of recreating myself, really based on the steps of understanding what it is that I am and what it is that I have in me and what we've been made from. Like there's a philosophy that I live by that I truly believe that there was one source. And I was a religious studies major at UVA, and all the religions that I studied, they always had one major entity that created everything. So a lot of religions share the same story. It's just different words, different actions, not putting anybody's religion down or putting one or the other. I just truly believe we come from one source, and that one source gave itself to everything and became everything. And so if that one source created everything, that means that's in us. And you know, you have the power to call a thing and let that thing be. You have the power to call yourself a thing and let it be. Here's what I teach people, and this is what I teach them I guess in the perspective of made free. You can call it negative or positive, but it's just what it is. You're made free to be whatever you want to be, and you're gonna always grow into that thing at a pace that's gonna perfect what it is that you are saying you are. So let me give you an example. If I say just like I was when I said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna be the best receiver UVA has ever seen. I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna let them know what's up." And I started to live that thing and I started to eat it and I started to sleep in and I couldn't wait to get to practice and I found different ways to become better and I wanted more film study and I wanted more action. I wanted more passes my way. I wanted more people in the stadium. All that geared towards me being the best. I wanted to see who was the best out there and I wanted to compete against them. Right? I'm made free to be the best receiver that has ever come through University of Virginia. On the flip side, you get an alcoholic and he's gonna use the same energy of creating, the same power of creating, and he's gonna go and do the same thing. I'm gonna find a better way to get money to get that liquor. I'm gonna find a better way to hide it in a paper bag. I'm gonna get 4 or 5 bottles because I know the store is closing in 5 minutes and I want to drink all night. My family asking me, but I'm chewing 18 pieces of gum so that I can mask my liquor. I'm gonna take 15 showers so it won't sweat through my pores and people won't know because I'm an alcoholic. I'm on the corner. I'm trying to walk straight, but I learned how to my equilibrium works when I'm drunk. Same thing. We all have this creative power in us, and you're made free to be whatever you call it. So I say, hey, why not take control of it and choose wisely what you want to be. And then once you choose it, consider nothing and go after it. And when I say go after it, I mean mentally in your mind, put yourself in a situation, um, where you can feel yourself to be that person. What will people be saying to you if you were that person? What would you feel like if you were that person? What would you be eating? What would you be doing? Like, and so that's what I teach people now, that the power is within them. I don't care if you're a professional, CEO, billionaire, millionaire. We all have these things that need to be healed and corrected in our life. And we all have a DNA power in us to spark the ability to say, man, this is what I am now. I'm no longer a football player. I'm no longer this. I'm no longer that. I'm going to recreate myself. And this is what I'm going to recreate myself to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about the experience, right?
All
What is
about
it
the
that you want
experience.
what you want to experience in life, and how do you want to experience that? Absolutely. So
Well,
it's so fun. It's so funny because me, I've had the pleasure of having, numerous conversations with you, and how many times I'll just be like, oh man, we should be recording this. Dang, we
right.
should be recording this, and I'm a powerful manifester, so I'm go ahead and claim that right now, right? And yes, all those times I would say that, but just wasn't, it was a little ahead of the game, just wasn't ready. It just hadn't really, come around. And now we're actually here because all those times I was saying, we should be recording this conversation for what? I didn't have a platform. Like, what was I going to do with it after it was, it was recorded? But, I'm definitely happy and like blessed now that I do have this platform. So we will have many other conversations on here. Hashtag certified is, being certified in you. And that's embracing who you are and trusting the process, and enjoying and embracing the journey, and really just owning who it is that you truly are. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, because that's what you do, but you weren't able to really teach this and bring this out in other people without first experiencing it yourself, going through that awakening, having that identity, crisis, and then, going through, I don't know if it's dark or funk or whatever you want to call it, but going through all that to then bring yourself out of it and know that all of this power and everything is within you. And now being able to use your experience and be able to teach other people that there's so much more to life, so I definitely respect and appreciate that
Most certainly.
in you. And so I want to go ahead and wrap this up just for now, because you will definitely be back on, because there's so many different things. And this is just the beginning, but
Hmm.
there's just so much to this whole process of, of being your authentic self and, being who you are and all the power that we have within us. But in the meantime, why don't you let everybody know how they could reach you, so if they want to follow you on social media, as well as anything that you have that's upcoming.
Sweet. So yeah, you guys can follow me at Instagram at Billy Mac Speaks, and that's MAC, Billy Mac Speaks on Instagram. And also check out my website, and that's my name for namesake is BillyMcMullen.com. That's BILLYMCMULLEN.com. And I do a lot of speaking engagements, corporate, individuals, schools, all over the place. And also I do mindset training, recreating your mind for your purpose and what it is that you want to be in your life. And so yeah, you guys can follow me now and shoot me a direct message if you want to pop some questions off me. I would love to hear from you, and I appreciate you, Tisha, for having me on.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Hashtag Certified. If anything resonated with you, I would love to continue the conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at @itistisha. And if you want to be a part of the Hashtag Certified tribe, you can join my Facebook group by going to the search tab and putting in Hashtag Certified. My website is conversationswithtisha.com. As always, have a great one on purpose. Love you.